Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of That 80s Child, the Generation Y. And my name is Gabrielle. And this is episode 2 of season 2, and as it's titled, called The Book Fair. As you all remember, when we were in, or maybe not all, but I know I remember, and I've been seeing the rounds of memes and things of that sort, hence the reason why it came to mind. But when we were in school, I'd say within the 90s and early 2000s, we had the pamphlets that would come in from the Scholastic Book Club. I remember when they would pass them out, and they were just like the cheap circulars that you would get in the mail. So they were just like the cheap paper, and it would have like the order form on the back of what you mark off each of the books that you want to get. So when they would hand them out, I would be super excited. It's a catalog. And we all remember catalogs, the Sears catalog, the JCPenney catalog. They don't have them around anymore. And we would go in, especially around Christmas, and you get to pick out the things that you really, really want. And you can highlight, circle, whatever it was that your parents would give you to say, this is what I want. And then, you know, you wake up Christmas morning and you find out which ones your parents decided to get you. This is kind of the same type of feeling. You would have this little pamphlet that was like 4 pages. So it's like the one page back to front. And you would go through it and you would circle the things that you would want. Now, my mom was always part of book clubs. So she would have the sci-fi book club, Doubleday book club. There was a couple other ones that were specifically for arts and crafts, knitting, crocheting. We have so many books that are just art stuff or just your basic book that you would have gotten as your monthly delivery of these books. So it's like stuff that you might not necessarily read, but they were part of your subscription, and you paid for what you kept. And my mom mainly kept majority of the books that you would get. So for the Scholastic Book Club, you got to pick, the ones that you wanted to buy. And again, like my mom being that avid book collector and reader, she would also go through the pamphlet and order form to see which ones sounded interesting to her. And then obviously like go through some of the stuff that I might have picked out. And then once you went through all of that and, your parents would give you the little order form in the back. And I actually put a picture of the order form and stuff within the podcast cover. So if that doesn't bring back memories, I don't know what will. So they would give you the order form. My mom would always give it to me in an envelope along with the check for, whatever it was that we were buying. And in a sealed envelope, and it would say for like Scholastic and my name and grade. So so you bring in that order form, and it's probably the only thing that never got lost or mangled within your book bag. Because I was never one to hide anything from my parents. Report card or bad grades or just grades in general, I didn't care. Like I said, school was sort of like a offhanded thing for me. It wasn't what my life was entailing. Granted, I obviously learned some things while I was at school, but all that I remember from school is the bad times that I had. So, if I got a bad grade, I would just be like, "Hey, look, I failed this." So, and speaking of which, kind of like a side note, my teachers, not all of them, but a good portion of them, if you got a bad grade, they wanted your parents to sign it. So they knew that they saw the grade. So this is before parent portals and, being able to just log on and see what things have been submitted and not submitted. Back then you could hide things. You could just be like, I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't fail anything. I don't know. I don't understand this grade at all. I passed with flying colors and I did all of my homework. The teacher's wrong. No, not so. I would get my tests signed. It didn't matter. And like I said, I didn't hide anything. It wasn't anything that I would just like shove to the bottom of my book bag and just let it waste away until the end of the year. And then when I cleaned out my book bag, I'm like, oh, there's that failure. I remember, and this is the only reason why I'm bringing it up, because I remember I think it was seventh grade. Originally, I thought it was eighth grade, but it was seventh grade because I nearly failed that grade, like I said in one of my other podcasts. And my one teacher, my one social studies teacher, Miss Cryan, I got like it's a 67, so I failed it. I got a nice big F, and she gave it to me, and she wanted it signed, and I think she would give you like 3 strikes, and like that's that. And if you don't get it signed, then you get a detention. And I brought it home. I showed my mom. She knew it, what it was, and I think I might have asked her. I can't remember. And I just either I forgot to get it signed or my mom forgot to sign it. It's not that I didn't show her. I didn't care. I didn't give 2 shits about my grade. And I never got punished for my grades. I know like parents back in the day were very like could be sticklers with what the grades you got, and my dad probably would have been a little bit more strict with it if my mom wasn't there to be like, she's having a rough time, let her be, she will just my mom was just more of like the let things flow. I'm so much more harder on myself now than I ever was, especially like in class, mainly because I'm paying for it. And it's not like my parents didn't pay for it. I went to a Catholic school, so they paid quite a bit of money. And so I'm sorry now that I'm seeing it on my end, because I still I have loans that I have to pay eventually. So now it's just like if I think my lowest grade in college currently was like a B minus, and if I so badly want to redo the class, but they won't let you redo a class unless it's a C or lower. And I'm like, well, this is pretty much a C. I can't have this. So anyway, so Miss Cryan was like the third time. She's like, Gabrielle, did you get your test signed? No, I'm sorry. I'll make sure. And it didn't dawn on me that it was the third time. And she's like, and like very serious. She always was very serious when she got to that. She's like, oh, okay, then you get a detention. And my heart dropped because I never, ever, ever had a detention. I wasn't I didn't talk because I didn't talk to anybody. I had no friends. I wasn't a jokester because I didn't talk. A lot of it just centered around the fact that I didn't talk or do anything. So there was no reason to which you need to administer some punishment. The only times that I've ever had moments where I had to speak to somebody was when I was in my English class in, again, 7th grade, and I was in a group with a couple of girls, all but one that I never didn't like. And anytime I tried to make any type of like input with the progress, because it was a group, I hated group projects, hated them. I like to work in groups. I can do that, but if I hate majority of the people that are there, no. I'd rather write a memoir or dictionary in lieu of working in a group. So they consistently didn't like want any of my input, and like if I changed anything or if I thought it needed to be changed, they would just be like, you don't know what you're talking about because you're stupid, and we don't like you for whatever reason. So I just didn't do anything. Anytime we had a meet in the group, I would just sit there and be like, okay, fuck it, I'm not doing it. They obviously said something because they did all of this work and I didn't do anything. Understandably so. Fine, I didn't do anything. I don't deserve the grade that you got because I wasn't able to actually put anything into it. So the teacher came up to me. When we had like a movie day or whatever, and she's like, I really liked her, Mrs. Lyons. She was a great teacher. I actually really liked her a lot. And I told her the circumstances. I'm like, I tried, and I just I can't handle these people, and I just don't want to work with them. So I was able to do a written assignment, and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to write about? How many pages? Let's do this. So I'm very, very happy that she accepted that. And I still don't like group projects personally. Back to the detention. I got a detention. I was sick to my stomach all day because I was like, oh my God. And I still find giving a kid a detention, well, obviously now it's not that big of a deal because like I said, the teachers, you have the portals now that you can go on and see all of the grades. But back then, I understand that they were trying to, like, you better show your parents or there's consequences. Okay, some kids that might be something. To me, it wasn't like, I'm like, fine, I'll show. I don't care. But I just genuinely didn't remember, or my mom didn't remember. So I served this detention. I ended up doing my homework while I was on detention, which is probably the soonest I ever did homework ever, because usually I did it on the morning of in homeroom, or just wouldn't get done, because that was me. I am still a procrastinator, but I do get things done. Thank you for that side rant. Now we're going back to the actual thing about scholastic books. So you would make sure that envelope with the order form, the check, or whatever it was that your parents gave would get to the teacher, so you would get those things, because it was like it was like Christmas or your birthday when those orders came in. It was the best day ever when they're like, okay, we got your orders, and you could see them when you would, like, I think it was like when we would come back from like lunch or recess, they would have their deliveries, and it would be like towards the end of the day, mainly because I believe that they didn't want you to be farting around with your whatever it was that you got most of the day, because you know that I know I would have. So when it would come in, it would just, you could see them, and I'm like, oh my god, I know one of them's mine. My mom always ordered every time we had those, so I always had like a stack of stuff. It was great. And because I would also get not just books, but it would have like the fun Mad Libs or something else that was interesting, because I wasn't a big reader when I was in school. And mainly it was because we were forced, and I know most kids nowadays still have a summer reading list and books that you have to read throughout the the year. And anytime it was forced on me, a book, even if it was good, because I've just reread Fahrenheit 451, and that was one of the books we did have to read. I did read it then, and I loved it then, along with like Animal Farm and 1984. There was a book called The Hatchet. I hated it. It was the longest, most boring book ever. I I understand that these had like the Caldecott awards, and they were like the staples of what you needed to teach in school. I hated having it forced on me, because majority of the time that's not where my interests were. They didn't lie in those forms of writing at the time. There are some books that I went and revisited that weren't as bad as I remember them, because I was just very much of a, like, I'm going to buck the system. I hate everything. Just I didn't want to read. I didn't want to read what they wanted me to read, because I found it to be very, very boring. So I know that might sound kind of counterintuitive or of me, because you're supposed to, if you want to become a published writer, you need to read to know what's out there, the language that people are using, how things are done, how the book is laid out, and just to gain experience in other like really good, really well written books. So I did a lot of that in the last 15-20 years, but not in school. It was definitely not in school. And even though I loved writing in high school, I wasn't a big writer in grammar school. I was didn't really have much of an interest of anything in elementary school. I didn't really find a lot about myself until the high school time of where my interest and passions were. Yeah, I was. So even though I had all these books in this orders from the Scholastic order form, I didn't. I probably didn't read any of them unless they were. I did have like stuff that was on mummies, Egypt, anything that was kind of educational. I found anything geographic or even I actually did. I lied. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was in like middle school, like towards going into high school. I knew I just loved history. I loved learning about it. I loved finding new things out about it, like how the people lived back in the day. And I'm not just talking about 20 years ago, I'm talking about like hundreds of thousands of years ago. I still am interested in it. It's just I found where I could direct that flow of passion into research, writing, and communicating rather than it just being archaeology. Although it is still, like I said, an interest of mine. Even though I wasn't a big reader back then, I'm happy that my mom did purchase the books that she did because I did revisit them later on. And I would say 50% of the things that we did buy off of Scholastic, I still have. The other 50% either got ruined. We did have a lot of, when we packed things away in our basement, we had water damage. So a lot of things got tossed or left when we left. So I didn't really keep everything, but I did keep. I think I kept enough. If I kept everything, we wouldn't have been able to move into where we are now. There's just not enough space. So yeah, so that's definitely changed in me. Like being a reader, being interested in different dynamics and different types of writing. Even though I usually gravitate towards fantasy, fiction, not very much into like true stories. I kind of just I want to live in a fictional world. True story is reality and I live it every day. I don't need to read about it. I do have autobiographies and biographies because the ones that I do have, I find those individuals interesting enough to read about. There's a new book that came out last year by Brent Spiner. I think it's Spiner. Brent Spiner that played Data in Star Trek Next Generation, and it's called Fan Fiction. You should definitely check it out because if you're into like Star Trek and stuff like that, it's a must read. So there's my little plug for him. Oh, and what I just recently took a drama class. So because I decided to add English as a minor, I had to take some more English classes, which is fine because English and anything creative writing and history are my favorite subjects. And so I took this drama class, and at first I'm like, do I want to take this? Because it was about plays. And it's not that I don't like plays. It's just that the plays that they're going to choose are going to be Shakespearean plays. And I'm not saying I do not like. It's not that I don't think that Shakespeare is a pivotal person to read about. It's just that I did it enough in school. I read Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet. Yeah. That's how much I remember. But it's just like I don't need to read anymore. I don't need to read much into it. So we ended up doing Hamlet, which is fine. Because the way that this teacher came at it is that we weren't going to read it. We were going to watch different versions of the stage play. So we watched the Kenneth Branagh version, which it's a 4-hour long. It's they didn't abridge it. It was the whole length of the play. Because a lot of the time they will cut out because it's a very long play. But Kenneth Branagh did the whole thing, 4 hours long. And I watched it. And it was okay. It was, it wasn't so bad. But I really enjoyed the fact that they went and he wanted us to watch it and he agrees in the fact that reading about it and seeing it being played out is two very different things. And I agree. And because we got to see a couple of different versions, that seeing it played out and how it was brought to life, and you weren't breaking every little thing down. You were just kind of discussing it, and I really enjoyed that class, and it gave me I really liked watching it, and then having some aspects of it discussed and seeing how people viewed it and the way that the professor came about it was that there isn't a right or wrong opinion about these plays. It's how you see it and how you enjoy it. Because if you start picking it apart and telling people, no, well, this is what this means and this is what this means, you start disliking it because maybe that meant something different to you. And I really liked that he took that into consideration and saw it in a different light, and that like you are going to see it differently than the next person. Let me just tell you that we'll get back into the scholastic thing. Go and check out the 1990 movie Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead. That has Tim Roth, Gary Oldman, and Richard Dreyfuss in it. It was great. It's a comedy, drama comedy about the Hamlet, and it was just it was just really awesome. I didn't know what to expect with it, but awesome movie. Definitely check it out. So besides books from the Scholastic Book Club, they also had like, they actually did have some toys and things of that sort, but that was like all educational. But because this was like mid 90s, it's when the PCs, the personal computers, were coming out, and it was becoming more available to the individual. So they started to have the Discovery CD-ROMs that had the one that I really really liked and I still had was the Nile Passage to Egypt. It was so cool because you would travel down the Nile and you would stop at different areas and you would talk to people. Granted, it was like old time PC graphics, but you got to see like pictures. They would play like Egyptian music, and it's educational, but it was interactive educational. I couldn't go to Egypt at the time, so this was the closest thing we were going to get to it. And you look at it now, and I know that you can see YouTube videos that have like a 360 view of certain things. They had the VR that you can travel and like Google Maps stuff. You don't have to leave your living room anymore or your computer room. So much more immersive now. So if you look at these old 1995 CD-ROMs that show you pictures of the pyramids or the Sphinx, it's just like, well, yeah, I can go look at a picture of it that's in 4K now. So it's okay. So it might not be as cool to kids now, but it was definitely an awesome experience in 1995. And it still holds a special place for me having that. But I think the biggest thing was, and I'm still trying to find one that I can work on my computer. So I need like an emulator because it's an old disc. A lot of old games, unless you can get them like from Good Old Games that are, sorry for all this paper, I have my notes. Goodoldgames.com, so GOG.com, will have old games. So I have like Ghostmaster on there, and that's from 2000. If you had the disc, first of all, my computer doesn't even have a CD-ROM reader anymore. There's really no need for it. I do actually have a disc reader, and I have a Blu-ray recorder as well somewhere. I just don't have it in my computer. I didn't install it. Besides the fact that I don't have a disc reader, I have Windows 10, and this worked off of majority of them are Windows 95 or Windows 98, depending upon when you bought it and when the systems came out. So, but the biggest one that I loved that we got off of Scholastic was Team Extreme Operation Weather Disaster. And then they had a subsequent sequel called Operation Eco Nightmare. So back in those days, when they were coming out with PC games, they had the interactive games, but they also had actors, real life actors. So if you like remember Command and Conquer, there was another one that's Frankenstein that had Tim Curry in it. So they were playing characters within the game, and it was them. So you had like cutscenes that were like movies, and then you had them standing within the interactive room that you might be in. I still find that to be pretty awesome, even over the graphics that we have now. I don't know why, but because you have an actual person rendered inside the game, sort of, and you're like interacting around them, and they'll like talk to you and stuff like that. I don't know. I still find that pretty cool. Like, I wish they kind of did more of that, and I think they did do like a remastered Command and Conquer. I don't play that game, so I'm not as familiar with the new versions that have come out over the years. So I'm sorry to those who play it. I do have it, I just don't play it. Anyway, so I love that game, and I'm still looking for it so I can play it on my computer because I loved it so much. I learned so much about because it's Operation Weather Disaster, so all about the weather. I uh, used to know, and if I saw it again, I think I could probably gain the knowledge again. But with converting Fahrenheit to Celsius in reverse, because you had to, in order to unlock one of the doors, you had to know what it was, 6 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit, and they would give you the equation to figure it out. I knew, I kind of still do know, like the different types of clouds, the different types of snowflakes, and at what temperature those snowflakes would come down, and the barometric pressure. It was just great, and the guy who played the weatherman, excellent, like excellent. And so funny, like, and he came back in the Eco Nightmare. I played Eco Nightmare for a little while because I did buy it, but I did not as much and not multiple times like I played Weather Disaster. So I like I said, I had the original CD for a very long time, and I'd say, all right, well, I guess it would be a while ago now, like 8 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. I was cleaning the living room in our house, and I found the disc broken right beside the baseboard heating and our chaise lounge that we had. And I'm like, what the hell is it? Why is it here and why is it broken? I don't know how whoever got it, and I want to say it was probably my son, because he would have been like 5 at the time, must have had it, broke it, and hid it because he didn't want me to, like, no, he broke it. Or maybe not. Maybe it was just in a pile of crap that was shoved around, which is quite possible. In that house, everything, it was a pit, an abyss. Anyhow, so I was very upset. Then they got me a new copy of it, but I could never get it to work for the computer. So I still have Eco Nightmare. I don't believe I have Weather Disaster anymore. I'm not entirely sure. If I did, I don't have it with me now. But again, it won't work on my computer, and I don't have a disk reader to actually install it. So I'm on the lookout. If anybody knows where I can find it, they do actually have a page available on Good Old Games that says Team Extreme, Operation Weather Disaster, but it's not available to download because otherwise then I could play it. I think I wrote to them and I'd be like, you need to get this game, please. So yeah, you could get all these educational games. And so besides the books, these were all very fun and exciting things to look forward to. And like I said, when you would get those piles of things, it was like Christmas and or birthday, some holiday. You were just getting things. And I'm not entirely sure what the frequency was, but I was looking it up earlier, and it says they do it 5 times a year, which I guess would make sense because you wouldn't do it over the summertime. The kids aren't in school. So you would get it like every other month. That makes sense. That's a lot of books. And I'm fairly certain that's the reason why we had as many as we did, because like I said, my mom would go a little crazy. So besides the Scholastic Book Club, you would have the ever popular book fair. And even if you weren't into books, your parents would give you money, and you were able to go through and buy and pick out the things that you wanted and buy it. Now, granted, within means of that whatever money that they gave you. So it was just in that instance alone, it was an awesome feeling to have that freedom to be like, I have money, I'm going to pick something out, and I'm buying it. It is my decision. There's a lot of power in that. I remember I don't know how they would do it in any other school, because I've only been to the one school and for all of my entire life, sadly. And they would usually have it set up in the library. And the one that I remember was the library that we had out in the trailer in the parking/recess area. Yeah, I can't remember any, like, I don't know if they ever did it in the library in the main building. And I think they might have done it in another room. I don't know. So the only one I can actually like visualized in my head was the one that they did in the trailer at the library. So what they would set everything up like in front of and on the shelves that had the library books. So the library books would be put in like, like a bookshelf, and they would have the scholastic books on sale facing outward, and you can see the cover. And then they would have, I think Scholastic provided some displays. So they would have like a display or two with things that they could set out. And then they have like the tables that they would have everything set. It was like a magical moment when you would walk in, and you would hope you were like within the first few groups, because they would call you in by groups, because I don't know if they would give you anything in advance to let you know what would be available for that book fair, but you wanted to have like that first dibs on like the cool stuff. Now, considering my mom spent I don't know how much money on the Scholastic order forms that they would consistently give 5 times a year, but anytime the book fair came, I swear I was gypped. Now, I don't know if she did is because she didn't trust me with the money, or she just didn't have the cash to give me, or she would forget it was that day. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember all the details. But I know that like I would say I was given like a $20 bill. Now, back in the 90s, $20 could get you a little bit more than what $20 can't give you diddly squat now, really. It's kind of like the equivalent of like 25-cent comic books. Nowadays, it's like, what, $5 to get a comic book? It's, economy, right? So I just felt like I really didn't have a lot, and I had to be wise about how I was going to spend it. And of course, like me being not the biggest reader, it wouldn't be novels. It would be, I think it was Dead and Buried, Frozen, or something like that. And of course, like, because I was really loved all that weird stuff, mummies things and whatever. And it was about the people who died up in the Antarctic, down in the Antarctic, excuse me. And I forget where exactly, but they died and they froze, so they were like permafrost, and so they pretty much have preserved. So there was a whole book about that, and shipwrecks. I also had a book about sharks because I loved sharks. I still love sharks. I would never go swimming with them, but I love the idea of a shark, and the anatomy and everything about them. Those books that I would get would be educational and informational, but it wasn't like the Babysitter's Club or Goosebumps or anything that was popular at the time. I might get a Goosebumps. Did I ever read it? No. Mainly because I was a scaredy cat, and I still am. I don't really like horror that much, and there are movies that I will watch that are considered horror, but they're psychological thrillers, so I prefer them over like your hack 'em up or somebody's chasing after you, like I said before. Those weren't like the biggest things on my list to get, and I wasn't into the Babysitter's Club. I didn't babysit. I didn't have friends, so it just would like make me think about how lonely I was, and I didn't want to read about it. So no, thank you. And that's the same thing with like the what was the other one? There was a Babysitter's Club, and then there was the one with like the horses or something. I don't know, something club. There was a club of some sort, but I didn't read any of those because it was just wasn't interesting to me. I didn't find it interesting. Give me something that was like 50 different things I should know about shark teeth. Totally, I'd buy that. Sometimes they would have like little tchotchke things I would probably buy because I'm a sucker for them. I still am a sucker for that stuff. Cheap crap that you don't really need, but I have it all over the place. Probably the reason why my mom didn't ever give me more money, because I come home with crap. But I loved it. And if you think about the book fair, you can visualize it and you can also smell it. Just the smell of the books and the paper. And it was just great to be able to get away from the class, be able to shop on your own, and I do love going to bookstores. I don't go very frequently now, not just because of COVID. It's because I feel like bookstore, like when after Borders went bust, I stopped kind of going. They had like books and more that were that was in Mays Landing that took over Borders that I used to go to all the time. And we would go because they still had like the cafe area. So we would go, and we would sit, have some coffee or a latte or whatever, and I would mainly get magazines because I loved anything that was very related, and also writing. I would get like the Writer's Journal or Writing Digest and poetry. I would also get stuff on poetry because I find that fascinating. I'm not anywhere. I write poems, but I'm not anywhere close to these people who write. They write poems like meat and potato poems. Me, I'm just like some side salad over here, and it's kind of interesting, but you know, some oil and vinegar. It's not like ranch dressing. I've been seeing a lot of memes about the Scholastic Book Fair, and I don't know if why. I don't know if maybe I've talked about it, and you know how like when you're talking, they're listening. I know you're listening. Stupid phones. So you'll see things that are advertised or geared towards whatever it is that you're talking about, or what if you have looked at your search history. Now, I haven't researched it prior, but I've seen people share stuff, and then I'll like click on it. So obviously, they're getting that information that way. So, which is fine because it sparked this whole podcast episode that I'm very happy to talk about, and it was a happy memory. About school related. Usually, like anything school related, it's not a happy memory. So, the Scholastic books that you would get and the book fair were highlights of my time in hell. Not that this is like my show and tell part, but you can't see anything. Even though technically I could record myself with a camera, I'm not going to do that. This is a podcast. You're supposed to listen, not see. Oh my God, I'm just knocking everything over. Okay. I think it was in third or fourth grade. I cannot remember. I have it's called the Fun Facts Organizer System. Almost like a trapper keeper kind of thing. I don't know if you remember them. So it's your organizer with your a ring binder, a smaller book, and it will have like these inserts that you can have your diary, your personal information, notes, stickers, activities, and fun facts. There's also an insert. So this is what I got, and I have my. Okay, here we go. I was 11 when I got this. So 1994. So what year? What grade was I in? Sixth? Between fifth and sixth grade. Oh, yeah, Miss Kane. I was in fifth grade. Look, I wrote down the teacher. Well, you can't see. I can see it for you. So, yeah. So I was in fifth grade. So I got this in fifth grade, and I was looking recently to see if because you could get the insert in here is all of the stuff that you could put into it. It has unusual pets, practical jokes, how to draw and paint, logic puzzles, a fun guide around the world, an atlas, and so on and so forth. So I was looking to see if this is still available, which it's not, and it's a shame because I love this thing, and it is kind of it's seen better days because I used it so much. I loved every single bit about it, and like I said, I love stuff that was informational. Most of my books that I have in my bookshelf over there that I'm pointing to that you can't see, is about like history, ghosts, informational things. When I got this was my favorite thing, and I still have it. So I still had it around and out for myself. So obviously, I'm just so glad I still have this because, like I said, after our major move in 2018, I lost a lot of things that I had held on to since I was a baby, and I lost a lot of things after that because we couldn't take everything. So the fact that I still have this is great. It's a part of me that I can take forward, and if Bryce ever cared, my son, to know he has this. But anyway, so I did actually find some more inserts. This actually was published by the Hendersting Publishing Company, which is based in England. So if you go online, majority of the stuff that's on sale, like on eBay, it's all from England. So it's going to cost me $38 to have a little pack of papers that are worth $1 to have it sent to me. Not worth it, but it's cool that they're still around. Or, It's still circulating. They just say vintage. Now everything from the 90s is vintage. It's ugh. Guess I'm vintage too. So the other book I have that I know that we got from the Scholastic, because one, it's published. It's published by Nintendo, but it was through the Scholastic Book Club. So you see the Scholastic thing on there, but it's a Nintendo thing because it's a Pokemon book. This is my brother's, and it's seen so much better days between him and my son going through this. So the fact that the pages are completely bent up because these are the original Pokemon. So the original, how many? 150. So the original 150, the official Pokemon handbook, and it says it right on the front. So it's all bent up from going through it, and also my son had a penchant to eat cardboard and books. So there's a bite mark on it. So that's fun, but it's history. You can see as it's gone through the generations. So that's something from the Scholastic Book Club that my brother got. So this was in 1998, excuse me. 1998. We are a family of book lovers now. My brother has always read his whole life. He enjoys reading just like my mom. I'm kind of like my dad. My dad did enjoy reading, but he enjoyed reading the Reader's Digest. So I enjoy reading, but I enjoy reading about historical things and taking on information. I just love information, and I think that's why I went back to school, and I'm actually enjoying majority of it. There's moments where, like, especially like the test taking, I like to take in the information, but on my own terms and not having to be tested on it. It is what it is. It's school, so I get it. They have to know what you know, and if there's no other way of figuring that out, I guess. Like I said, I would prefer to write a book than take a test or work in groups. So that's really all that I have for this episode. I wanted to make sure these episodes were a little bit longer than the 27 minutes to half an hour. I feel like longer ones gives you more time to sit and more time to pass to listen to this baloney that I'm spewing. When you're at work, you want to be able to sit and like let the time pass. And if you're listening to something that you find interesting, the time will pass a lot faster. And if it's longer, then it's just it's beneficial for everybody, because then the day is almost done. You don't have to worry about, you can go home, relax, or try to relax. Because I know when I come home to having to let the dogs out and doing dinner and doing laundry or whatever it is I have to do, and then doing school. This past weekend, this would have been out a day earlier, but I did nothing this past weekend, and it felt so good. At the same time, I feel like, I could have done a whole lot. Yes, but I do a whole lot every other day and every other weekend, and I just wanted to just sit and be a bum for 48 hours, which I did. I played video games. Yep. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with the book fair and Scholastic. I hope it brought back some memories. I hope you have some of the books that you might have gotten. I really like the fact that I still have some of these, and it's a time capsule. So, it'd be cool if you had it too, and you can pass it down to the generations. I know people have heirlooms, and I'll just have here is my fun facts organizer. Whatever. So at least it's just something from that past that just brings back good memories, and you want that. Again, hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you'll check out my previous season 1. I have 10 episodes with an introduction, and like I said, I'm going to be doing 12 episodes this time. So I'm raring to go. I got this going, and I'm excited. So whether or not everybody's listening to it, like I said before, it's not really it's kind of about that. But I mean, I would like to have a bigger following, but I know that it takes time. And I got to get used to it, and I got to bring in some people, so it's not just me talking all of the time by myself. So I get needing to have a little bit more of a dynamic. So I'm working on that. I'm in the early infant stages of this. Okay, give me some time. So please check out my blog on GabrielleCataldi.com. I update that twice a week, or I try to. For the most part, I've been doing that. So, and these podcasts will be out once a week, usually over the weekend. I posted it, the last one on a Monday. This is going to be posted on a Monday, so maybe that'll be my schedule. Before it was on a Friday or Saturday, so whatever. It's whenever I have time. So, work life, right? So I hope you've enjoyed, brought back some memories, and please, like I said, check out the other episodes. You can listen to these on Spotify and any other podcast provider, not just on the website. So if you need to have it like queued up on your phone and you don't have to go onto the website to listen to it, you can listen to it through Spotify or through Apple, iTunes, Google, wherever you listen to it. So thank you again for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you will check back on next week for the next episode. Thank you again for listening to me, and this is Gabrielle signing off for That 80s Child, the Generation Y. Bye.